Hello, everybody, and welcome again to Nerd of the Third Power, your one-stop shop for all things nerdy and awesome. I'm your host and master of ceremonies, Dr. Gonzo. With me, as always, this epic quest of awesomeness is our resident anime goddess, the Cat. Cat, how you doing?
Oh, you know, I'm here. Some days that's all you can ask for.
Okay, and let's see, neither John nor Skyblazed are here due to complications, and they're both are falling apart around. It's just Brian. Brian, you're the only correspondent here today.
I don't like the fact it took you that long to remember I was here.
Well, you're the quiet one who never causes any trouble, so it's just kind of like, oh, hey, Brian, cool, how you doing? You're not like John, who I've got to yell at every week because he's blown something up or, made the secretary cry again.
Well, you have to remember, always watch out for the quiet ones.
Yes. It's a coin toss between you and Kat as to who will eventually rise up and kill me in my sleep and take my place as Lord of the Sith when I am old and weak.
Oh, that's Kat. I'm not getting involved in that fight.
Well, I've known you longer is really what it's about.
She knows how I want to go. I came into this world naked and bloody, and I'll go out the same way. Alrighty.
Covered in someone else's blood.
Yep.
is really the way you want to go.
Yep. Alrighty. But of course, we got a great show tonight. Tonight we're discussing the Peanuts movie. Something that I have certainly been really looking forward to, and I'm sure Brian's been anticipating it as well. Big Peanuts fan as he is. So we're going to be discussing that and having a lot of fun with that. But of course, there is procedure to follow, and we're going to break it by taking care of a bit of housekeeping first. I've got a bit of an announcement that I've got to make. I have been fortunate enough to head this team and host this show for about 6 years now, and it's been one of the greatest experiences of my life. I've got a great team. I mean, I love these people like family, and it's been a wonderful experience. But I'm sure that a lot of our listeners knows that this hasn't exactly been the best year for us, and a lot of that is because it hasn't been the best year for me personally. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this on the show, but I've been going to school for the last couple of years for a cybersecurity degree, and I actually graduate this December, so my class load is extra heavy this December. So there's been a lot of stress on that front. I've got to worry about finding myself a job after I graduate, so that's adding to it, getting my certification. And there have been some personal issues as well. Just, not really going to go into a whole lot of details, so I'm just going to kind of just throw it out. There's been a lot of family issues. I've had several deaths in the family over the last year, and everything just combined has put me in kind of a dark place. And listeners who've been with us for a few years will remember that in 2012 I had a major emotional breakdown, and because of that the show suffered. Episodes didn't go out for long periods of time, and we wound up falling behind, and I don't want to see that happen again. I don't want my drama to drag the show down, because I want to see us grow. I want to see us grow and do more. And getting this degree and get myself a job will go a long way towards helping that. But for right now, I need to step back and just get my own shit together. So after this week, I will be stepping down temporarily as host of Nerd of the Third Power, and will be ceding my duties to Kat and Skyblaze for as co-hosts for the remainder of the year. I will be back in December when we do our Star Wars episode, because of course we're doing a fucking Star Wars episode. Because I mean, let's be honest, like that is Christmas gift to all geeks this year, is a new Star Wars film. So it would really be foolish of us to not discuss Star Wars. So I will be back for that. But next week and the following weeks up to that point, I'm going to be off taking a sabbatical and getting my own life in order. So that's that. We are not ending the show. The show is not going away. We're not breaking up. There's no, this isn't like a tear-stained goodbye. This is just, look, I've got to go take some time off and take care of, a bunch of shit. So that's that. And I will be back. We will, no, we're not going anywhere. We're not into the show. So don't worry about that. It's just I've got to get my life in order.
This is so funny to me because you sound so dramatic, but it's like 3 episodes, and then we go on Christmas break. So it's really, like, Godzilla's not going to be away for very long.
I know, this is the reasons for the sabbatical are big and dramatic, but the actual sabbatical stuff is like, look, I'm taking a weekend off, basically. That's the equivalent of this.
I mean, I've probably hosted the show that many times, that many weeks in a row while you've been studying for finals before. So this is nothing new. This is nothing to panic about. We're just gonna keep on keeping on, and then we're actually gonna take a holiday break coming up in December, just so we have time to spend time with our families, and also I have a shitty job, and such and so forth.
Yep. I think actually you're the only. I think for the first year in a while, you're the only one on the team who works retail right now.
I've got my fingers crossed about a job I applied for, but for the time being, yes, I have a shitty retail job that is going to eat up my time, but I will not let that stop me from hanging out with my listeners, my favorite audience peoples, and becoming the temporary queen of the show.
Of course, this all assumes that she doesn't commit ritual seppuku on Black Friday.
Right. So there, once we get past there, it will be smooth. No, just kidding. Just kidding. It'll still be awful.
Okay, but anyway, so just to get that out of the way, that I'm just taking a bit of a holiday, and I will be back. So, but of course, now after that, let's get back to procedure. Now that everything's been thoroughly depressed, let's do some stuff to cheer. That's a little more light and fun. So let's start up with Ask a Geek, and I've got a few questions here. First question here is from Sam, and it is addressed to all of us, it's addressed to all the Star Wars fans, which I'm pretty sure is all of us. And the question he has is, if you could have one job in the Star Wars universe, what would it be? So let's see, Brian, why don't we start with you on this one?
I would say moisture farmer, but apparently they just get shot all the time. I would say pilots, but they get shot all the time. I would say smugglers, they get shot up or put into carbonite.
You'd think Jedi, but no, they all got killed.
Order 66, man.
Oh, man.
I would want to be an astromech droid, because at least if I get shot, I can at least get repaired.
But protocol droid.
But then
the protocol droids are just tight-ass dickweeds. I want to be the astromech.
But then you can only communicate with people in beeps and bloops.
Good. Sometimes they don't want to hear what I want to say about them. I'm pretty sure R2-D2's got some shit to say to Luke sometimes.
That's why it's all bleeped out.
You're the only person I know, Brian, who wants his speech censored. Okay. Kat, what about you?
Man, I don't think I want to exist in that universe because it is never actually peaceful. You don't want to be a princess because they just get killed or kidnapped and attacked and all sorts of other things. You don't want to be a stormtrooper. You don't want to be a moisture farmer. There's multiple planets you don't want to live on because they all suck or they get blown up. I guess
that only happened once.
That happened once. I guess you could be like an Ewok or something, because then you just, you hunt and stuff, and maybe you don't die. But that's not really an occupation per se. God, it's sort of. I guess I would want to be the Emperor. Evil Emperor just sounds like a cush job at this point. I mean, sure, people are trying to kill you, but as long as you're all powerful. And don't underestimate the power of family. Might be okay.
Yeah, watch out for that second in command. Make sure he doesn't throw you down any core shafts.
Just don't invite him to father-son workday.
Which I never understood why the Emperor's throne was built directly over the power core. I'm just like, there's a comic called Star Wars Tales a few years ago. And it was short little vignette Star Wars stories, some of which were very humorous. And one of the ones that went out was a planning meeting between the Emperor, Tarkin, and Bevel Lemelisk about building the Death Star. And he's looking at this just like, why are there no guardrails? I could be walking down a hallway and just slip, and I'm falling miles away down into the core of the station. Can we get some safety measures here? And Tarkin's like, well, we could, but it would drive up the budget by several billion credits. It's like, okay, fine, we just won't build any guardrails. And then the Emperor turns to Vader and says, okay, if I'm ever visiting this station, you're never more than 3 feet away from me, because I really don't want to slip on a banana peel and go tumbling down into the bottomless pit because some yahoo didn't mop the floor that day.
The Imperial engineers, in terms of like construction, were terrible.
Okay, let's see. My chosen profession. I'm actually gonna pick one because I'm not scared to die. I would actually want to be a fighter pilot. I would want.
Yep, you die first.
Yep. I would want to be a rebel fighter pilot. I'd want to fly an X-wing, because that's just like my favorite spaceship ever. So if I could fly an X-wing, that would be it. I wouldn't care if I was the first person shot down. I got to fly a fucking X-wing.
I am not your astromech droid then, because fuck that.
Okay. All right. Next question here. Let's see. This one comes from. Let's see. Let me get a good one here. Okay. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. Misha writes one to all of us, and I'm assuming it's a lady's name, and she writes to all of us, what is a piece of geek paraphernalia that you wish exists? So a piece of geek merch that you would like to have that doesn't exist.
Good one, because there's a lot of merchandise out there nowadays. Now, this is just like, I'm assuming replicas or of stuff, not the actual product in and of itself.
Well, I seriously doubt that if you want a proton pack, someone's actually going to sell you an unlicensed nuclear accelerator. So yes, replicas.
You don't know the people I do. I don't really know. Like, I actually wouldn't mind. This is going back to sort of my Mystery Science Theater stuff. I wouldn't mind a small model of the Satellite of Love, because I know Shout Factories has released little tiny little robots, the bots like Tom Servo and Crow T and Gypsy, but I wouldn't mind like a small Satellite of Love like model to have.
Okay, all right. That's a good one. That's one I hadn't even thought of. Okay, Kat, what about you?
Probably more Sailor Moon proplicas, because they always do all of the Sailor Moon wands and stuff, but they don't do a whole lot in terms of proplicas for the other Sailor Senshi props. So basically what I'm saying is I want Sailor Saturn's Silence Glaive without having to actually make it myself. Which is a huge staff with blade on the end, and it's really cool looking.
Now is that the thing where if she drops it, the whole universe ends?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
See, that always struck me as a big design flaw, because like, you know, what happens if she's just like walking around, she like slips on a banana peel and just like falls out of her hand, and the whole universe is fucked.
I think the biggest problem is whoever's dropping these goddamn banana peels everywhere. I mean, come on, throw your trash away.
I think there's a little more to it than that, but you're absolutely right. We'll get right on messaging
or what if
Takeuchi about that.
Or what if she's not even holding it? What if she's just like, you know, she's already gone to bed for the night and it's just like sitting on her desk or something, and fucking Artemis comes up and like the cat he is just knocks it over. Because cats fucking do that.
They do, on purpose too. So Artemis is probably a villain in your banana peel world.
Maybe he's the one who's leaving all the banana peels. He's sick
Mystery solved.
He's sick of taking Luna's shit. Okay. Let's see. For me, I have always really wanted I've always wanted Marty's jacket from Back to the Future 2. The self-drying one. It doesn't have to actually self-dry, but just that style of really cool. And that you know, fucking Technicolor baseball cap that he wears in the second movie. So
the Technicolor baseball cap did get released, but very limited. So I know people who have them, but it's hard to find now.
So that's kind of. Because I know that the cop out answer is either a hoverboard or self-lacing shoes, but we're apparently getting those. So, let's see. Okay. This one here is from Alan, and it is directed to Kat. And he asks, as a dinosaur fan, if you could have any dinosaur as a pet, what would it be?
See, like my favorite dinosaur versus the kind of dinosaur I'd want as a pet are totally different. Although a Pachycephalosaurus would be kind of cool as a pet, but more like as a pit bull, like some kind of guard dog. For a pet, I'd want something, smaller and cuter and less hostile. More like, probably want some sort of herbivore. Just sit there and eat grass and I could pet it. But I can't think of what.
Like a Protoceratops?
Actually, I was kind of thinking a Protoceratops would actually be great. I was like, Aunt Kyla, no, I like my house in shape. Unfortunately, though, I have a really tiny apartment, so I don't even know what I could fit in my apartment. If we could just, make a tiny, breed Protoceratopses into tinier versions, like Munchkin cats or micro pigs or something, and we just have a really tiny... That would be great.
I seem to recall that there was a dinosaur called Microceratops, but I don't know anything about it. But what about just one singular Compsognathus? Because if you remember in both the books and the film, one was never a problem. It was only when they traveled in packs that they became an issue.
That's true, but I think in the movies they were a lot smaller than their actual size. I think their actual size is more like dog-sized or larger. Okay. As long as you're feeding them right, maybe it won't kill you. But probably for practical reasons, a herbivore. Protoceratops is probably something around my pick. Because a Protoceratops doesn't have, horns or anything like that. It has, the fan. I forget what you would call that.
The crest, I think?
Yeah, crest. That's a better word than fan. It's sitting there with a little fan turned on, just going, cool. So it's slightly less dangerous than, say, other cool-looking but ultimately dangerous herbivores. Yeah, we'll go with Protoceratops.
Okay. And he's got a second question for you, which is, are you familiar at all with the Dinotopia series?
Oh my god! You have no idea. Part of my love of dinosaurs, other than... watching Jurassic Park when I was a kid, is the Dinotopia series. I loved those books. I still have a bunch of the paperbacks. I never managed to get all of the big hardbacks by the original author, but I did collect probably 15 or so of the paperbacks that I adored. I loved those books. I bet I could still read them again now and still love them. Even though right now they probably, at my age, would probably seem really dumb. But God, I loved those books so much.
Okay. So for those who don't know what books we're talking about, Dinotopia was basically a series of children's novels detailing this lost island somewhere down near Australia that was surrounded by reefs, so ships that found it could never leave again. And dinosaurs lived alongside humans. In this sort of utopian civilization that they had managed to build. And,
these were super intelligent dinosaurs, and they all spoke a common tongue and everything like that. So it was super intelligent, but not anthropomorphic dinosaurs. So they're dinosaurs, and they're still carnivores and herbivores and everything, but they have formed a society and can communicate with humans, which to me is the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, and to give you an idea of the kind of book this is, they have a friggin' Deinonychus as a librarian.
Right? This is the coolest place ever. I wanted to be there so bad. Other kids were Middle Earth, yada yada. And I'm like, no, Dinotopia, dude. It's got dinosaurs and they talk. This is great.
Okay. So we're going to stop there because I know that if I let Kat go on, she could go for hours about her love of these books.
Probably could.
So we're gonna stop that right there. So that's all the Ask the Geek questions that we have for this week. As always, you can send them to us through the email at drgonzo@nerdofthethirdpower. Or you can put them up on our on a thread on our Facebook. We have a permanent Ask a Geek thread there that we're also pulling questions from. So get your questions in. We love hearing them, reading them out on the show. And so with that, we're just going to launch right into the headlines, starting with Brian this week because he's literally the only person here. So Brian, take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzo. And here are this week's multiverse headlines. The headlines dealing with the comic book world as they get thinner and thinner as we get closer to the new year. So I'm going to try to do my best to give you something. This week, well, it looks like an all Marvel edition. Some good, some not so good, some just confusing. So, first up, how does everyone like Deadpool? He seems to be a popular character, I know. Hey, he has a new movie coming out. Well, you know what that means. Not only will Deadpool have his own original ongoing series going on right now with the all-new, all-different Marvel, he's going to have himself a second mini-series called Deadpool and the Mercs for Money. And it sounds exactly what it is. Deadpool's got to get himself a sort of Dirty Dozen-esque crew together to help with a problem. This will be written by Cullen Bunn, who, if you might recently know, left the Aquaman title because of Twitter backlash. But he's more than happy to jump on to Deadpool, that's for sure. Not really sure when it's going to come out. The solicitation does mention things about 3 different variant covers: hip-hop variant cover, design variant cover, and action variant cover. Now, those variant covers are actually coming out in 3 different months, so I don't know exactly which month this one will debut at. Hopefully we'll have some more information down the road. Always check with your local comic book company. They know what is up. Now, here comes a bit of the bad. Unfortunately, A-Force #1, A-Force, the all-female Avengers title for all-new, all-different Marvel, is being delayed for about 3 weeks into 2016. This is one of the many delayed titles Marvel has been producing these last couple of months. Secret Wars, meaning the Secret War tie-ins, have been delayed. Now it looks like it's starting to affect their relaunch titles of their all-different and all-new Marvel, which, by the way, doesn't look all that all-new or different since last Marvel, but that is a discussion for another time. No news why it's being delayed. It could be because of the conjunction with Secret Wars going on. There are certain points they can't allow to be spoiled just yet. They have to wait for Secret Wars to end sometime in December before this series can get off its feet. So look for that sometime in 2016. Hopefully January 2016. But the way things are going, that could change very quickly. And in a more confusing set of news, it actually sort of deals with tabletop gaming. Legendary, the deck building card game, has unfortunately just noticed everyone that they can't do the Fantastic Four expansion pack anymore. Restrictions have been placed onto the Fantastic Four Legendary Card expansion pack by Marvel with no real reason why. But a lot of people on the internet are putting 2 and 2 together. If you remember, there's a big bust-up between 20th Century Fox and Marvel Studios about the Fantastic Four, with the, well, let's just call it bad, for the sake of bad, Fantastic Four movie that came out this year, and the cancellation of the Fantastic Four books and splitting up of the family, and possible, this might be spoiler, skip ahead, possible death of some of the characters in the books. It's unknown at the time how long this will last. They have said, Legendary creators have said, if they ever want to remove the restrictions, they will start reprinting them out the next day. But so far, if you have Legendary, the card deck building game, unfortunately, the only way to get the Fantastic Four version is going to eBay. It's going up to about $100 per pack. So good luck with that if you can find it. Well, that's all the news I have going on this week in the Multiverse headlines. Turn everything over to our anime goddess, Kat. Kat, take it away.
Thanks, Brian. Film, stage, television, and anime actress Kato Haruko passed away last week. Known best for her plays and roles in television dramas in the 60s and 70s, anime fans will know Kato as Madame Solomon in Howl's Moving Castle and the Madam in Kiki's Delivery Service. She was 92. Audio engineer Les Claypool III's Magnitude 8 Post recording studio has officially closed its doors this week. Finances were cited as the primary reason for the move. Claypool stated that he'd rather close than stick over 1,000 engineers with self-employment tax, convince actors to cut their rates, or hire unemployed interns to do jobs they should be getting paid to do to fit into increasingly smaller budgets. Now, if you've never heard the name Magnitude 8 before, just about every anime fan has at least heard their work. They were the recording facility for big-name anime like Akira, Ghost in the Shell, El Hazard, Wolf's Rain, Big O, and a bunch of the Gundams, too. It recorded some of the best shows of its time. And while I do find its closure a crying shame, I suppose it's better than continuing to struggle through and screwing over the engineers and actors to scrape by and stay afloat. So I know there's been talk across the internet that the Trans-Pacific Partnership would have an impact on anime fans. Fans across the globe have been fretting that the stipulations of the TPP would make fan creations illegal in a way they've never been before. There's always been hubbub about whether or not fan art is illegal or not, and yada yada yada, and as far as I know, no one's ever actually been successfully sued over fan art, even when it has a monetary gain for the fan artist. However, with the TPP, doujinshi artists have been afraid that with the vague wording of the agreement, their works may now become a target for lawsuits. Japanese copyright laws require the victim's consent before prosecuting someone for the sale of copyrighted materials. The TPP would not, which means that anything that was quote-unquote impactful enough on the copyright holder's profits is grounds for prosecution, even if the original creator doesn't want to sue. But what's considered impactful enough? How much money is that? See, it's kind of vague. That's why there was a subcommittee hearing on the TPP's copyright laws in Japan last week to hammer out some of the questions. Now, the TPP's terms are pretty well set, but each nation is able to ratify its own set of terms, which means there's still time to clarify some of the legal jargon. While the subcommittee didn't give a definite yes or no as to whether fan works would be exempt, they did say they would like to move in that direction. So at least in Japan, fan creators are unlikely to be sued over the works without the consent of the copyright holder. I've yet to hear if and how other countries are handling the issue. And that's all I've got going on in the anime and manga world. Over to you, Dr. Gonzo.
And that's all the headlines that we have for Nerd of the Third Power this week. We're going to take a quick musical break. When we come back, the Peanuts movie. This is a film that at least me and Brian, have been seriously looking forward to, and we're kind of take a look at it and see, is it a faithful adaptation of the Charles Schulz classic, or is it, like so many adaptations of old style characters, is it a modern disappointment? So we're going to take a quick musical break. We come back, the Peanuts movie. All right, and we are back. And this week, I'm really excited about this week's topic because this is a movie that I've been looking forward to for a good portion of the year, and it's based on something that I hold very dear to my heart, and Brian holds very dear to his heart, and that's the Peanuts movie. I think when we had Jason Youngbluth on the show discussing Weapon Brown, we both expressed our eternal love of Charles Schulz's characters and the world that he built around Charlie Brown and Snoopy, and now we get to see that world on the big screen for the first time for us. Because I think the last theatrical Peanuts film was Bon Voyage, Charlie Brown, like 1980.
I'm not even sure that. I mean, that might have been. I might have been too young. I don't even know if that came out in theaters. To be honest with you,
It did. It did. It was.
It did?
Yeah. There was 4 of them. There was a boy named Charlie Brown, Snoopy Come Home, Bon Voyage, Charlie Brown, and in between Snoopy Come Home and Bon Voyage, there was another one that I can never remember. I want to say it was You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, but I don't think that was it.
possibly. It's been a while, and that at that time I was still like
A Twinkle in Your Father's Eye.
I wasn't born until '83, so I didn't get to see these in theaters. Period.
Yeah. So this is the first time for us seeing these characters that we love up on screen. So yeah, this is gonna be a really fun discussion for us. So I don't know, Brian. Do we even need to introduce the Peanuts characters? I mean, I think it's kind of one of those things that's just in you're born knowing who Charlie Brown is.
I think. Well, I mean, a little bit. I mean, first of all, I don't know if anticipation is the right word I had for this film. I think I was terrified. Just because, we've seen nostalgic stuff kind of not taken seriously or changed up to the point where it's no longer enjoyable for the person. Bless you. I just lost my train of thought. Hold on a sec.
Sorry, I smurfed too loud.
You Smurfy Smurf cat.
So it's just so it. I was terrified, and the trailers didn't help me when they had the Who playing in the background. I'm going, the Who, for Charlie Brown. But no, I think there should be some sort of introduction to Charlie Brown, because I know for a fact some of our younger listeners might not really know who he is or Snoopy. Other than they know Snoopy because of the MetLife blimp. So like the guy, the dog that sells life insurance. Well, there's more to him than that.
That's just his day job. Okay. All right. So for the young ones the really young ones who don't know who we're talking about, Peanuts was a comic strip that ran for 50 years in the mid to late 20th century. And it was notable for being one of the few comics that ran that long to be drawn by the same artist from start to finish. And that actually ended, one of the few comic strips from that era that actually ended when the original author said it was going to end. Because I think, Blondie has gone through, 4 different artists and still going? So, but the central character was a little boy named Charlie Brown. And he had this little beagle dog, Snoopy. And a group of friends, including Lucy, who was this sort of bratty, fuss-budget little girl. His little sister, Charlie Brown's little sister, Sally, who had a crush on Lucy's little brother, Linus, who was most famous for carrying around a security blanket. And then he had Schroeder, the Beethoven nut. And, I mean, really, there were so many different characters introduced over the course of the strip that really we could do a whole show just naming them all and talking about their defining traits. There were just so many of them. But the basic premise of the strip was Charlie Brown's life and dealing with the world around him. And he was very much a hapless loser. He always tried his best and tried to be a good person and do his best and never give up. But the universe just kept on kicking him while he was down. But he never gave up. He never let that get to him. And every time he got knocked down, he would get back up again, dust himself off, and just keep on trying. And so that was basically the basic format of the comic strip. So, and now 65 years after the first Peanuts strip was shown in newspapers, now we have this new film. So, Brian, why don't you give us a brief rundown of the plot of the film itself?
Well, the plot of the film is actually it's a lot of different, I would say, small segments broken up with a narrative linking them together. The narrative that links them together is that Charlie Brown meets the little redhead girl. She moves to his neighborhood across the street, and he thinks she's the most beautiful girl in the world and wants to get noticed by her and is sort of scared too. So every sort of thing that he does, every sort of little mini story that happens, is him trying to do something to sort of show that he is not this failure that everyone kind of else thinks he is, or he's not this loser. So you sort of go from different items. He tries to go into the talent show at one point as a magician. He goes to the school dance to try to impress her with the dance because there was a competition between the men and the women, and whoever had the best dancer, they would dance together. Eventually, he learned about they thought he was the smartest kid in school through standardized testings, which was a joke I don't think a child in that theater was ever going to get. Was the standardized testing joke, and Linus trying to stand up to do his little speech about it, and then the teacher just shouting them down. Or I guess not shouting, going wah 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 wah.
Yes, ma'am.
But yeah, so every sort of little adventure he does or he did was to sort of get noticed by her, and of course they don't go to plan. That's sort of what happens, and eventually ends up with a very nice heartwarming moment. In between all that is Snoopy's story, which is a story within a story, because Snoopy finds a typewriter at one point and starts typing about the wonderful, great World War I pilot off against the Red Baron, because the Red Baron stole the love of his life. Which were definitely, those were very enjoyable, only because they seemed very random to cut in. And because Snoopy would be like, I have an inspiration, all right, next chapter. And they skipped chapters, too, so it was like chapter 1, and it goes to chapter 4, and I was like, what happened to 2 through 3?
Wait for the Blu-ray cut.
And also, when he gets this is just a joke. When he gets the typewriter at first and types out a story, and Woodstock's there, and Woodstock pulls out the red pen and starts marking things down, and they get into a fight. That is the best representation between writer and editor on screen I have ever seen.
What I really liked about how the story was told was that, the Peanuts. This is 50 years of history that you have to draw from, and they managed to include all of these subtle little cues to the longtime Peanuts fans, stuff that people nowadays wouldn't think twice about. But if you're someone who's followed the strip closely, you kind of see, for example, the name of the teacher, Miss Offmar, who longtime Peanuts readers might recognize as being the always unseen teacher that Linus had a crush on, and was always disappointed when summer came because he didn't get to see Miss Offmar for 3 months. Or you saw characters who were big in the strip's early days, then eventually disappeared, like the original Patty and Shermie and Violet. I only spotted Shermie just out of just in a kind of blink you and miss it moment. He was the mime in the talent show, and so there's all these little sort of subtle nods to these quirks to these characters and their history that I thought were all really neat, and they were done in a way that wasn't intrusive to the overall story of the film. Like, they didn't stop and explain every single one. Like, okay, here's the dreaded kite eating tree, and then if any other studio had done this movie, then they would have gone into a 5-minute spiel about where the tree came from and why it does what it does. But in this film, it's just a tree that eats kites. That's all you need to know. And then
that's because that was the joke in the comic strip. There was no origin story for the kite eating tree. It's just it was a tree that ate all the kites, and mostly Charlie Brown's kites.
So, but no, I thought this film was very charming and very heartwarming, especially the finale. I was kind of afraid that they were going to try and update the characters, kind of make them kind of appeal to the millennial generation, kind of the, like you see so many other things updated. But no, they kept true to the spirit of the original characters, and I really thought that was a really neat touch. And I later found out that was actually enforced because 3 of the people who fronted the money for this film were Charles Schultz's grandchildren. So the Schultz estate was involved in this film from word go and was overseeing everything.
Well, the Schultz estate is in charge of everything Charlie Brown, which is why it probably took so long for this movie to be made in the first place. Because this was actually announced years upon years ago. And I realize animated films take a while, especially CGI animated films. But this was outside of the action sequences in terms of animating. It's amazingly simplistic because they kept it at that side panel. When you look at them as the old cartoons and the old comic strips, you're always sort of looking at them from the side most of the time. In very flat backgrounds and stuff like that. And they kept that in there, which was, fascinating to me. Because that seems like you have the CGI, you can do almost all these amazing things. So the restraint to put, all right, no, we can only look at from this angle. Maybe we'll do this angle. You know, that just shocks you almost.
There was also other neat little touches that if you wouldn't really know unless you paying attention or were an animation major. But like, one of the big selling points of CGI is you can have smoother animation. But they did this film. I read somewhere that they only had a frame with movement like every other frame instead of every single frame. So that's why you got that kind of jerky, stoppy-goey movement like you had in the original specials. So it actually looked sort of like it retained the style of the style of movement from the old animated cartoon specials, which I thought was a real neat touch. And I also really liked that the CGI, it was there, but it wasn't sort of like Toy Story was back in the day, where it was kind of like, oh hey, we're CGI, look at us, look what we can do. It's just kind of the CGI is here just to tell a story, and it did so beautifully. There wasn't a whole bunch of, outside of the Snoopy sequences, there weren't a whole bunch of huge set pieces and action sequences to show off what the computers can do. It was just used as a storytelling tool, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense, because I think a lot of us, like I said, I know I was a little bit concerned with the film, especially making it CGI. Though I don't really like the fact they kind of use realistic looking hair at some certain points, or at least close to realistic looking hair. That drew my eye away from it a little bit. But at the same time, it's I guess a compromise of what they had to do for it, just because of what they had. And also, like, if you look closely, like, Snoopy did have fur, where in the old, it's just him being pretty much white and smooth and things like that, unless like a joke required his fur to puff out. So it had its good moments, and then it also had some, I guess, compromising moments that a CGI film like this would have. But overall, I think my fears were unwarranted, because I really did enjoy everything from it. But you said, like, you didn't want to modernize. They didn't think they should modernize it up. I feel like more of the stuff that's made was made for the people who originally read and watched the specials in the show and the comic strip itself. Like, if moderning it up, probably keeping it not modern is more for the nostalgia act than it is for anything else. I'm not sure kids today will sort of get Charlie Brown. As much as it pains me to say, we're a little bit more cynical these days and age, and like Charlie Brown's a very simple character. All the characters are very simple, and that's sort of what the draw is to them sometimes.
Well, I think I should clarify what I meant by modernizing. What I meant is, like, you look at a lot of films nowadays that are supposedly built around, like, friends and current, like, look at the Avengers. Like, how much a percentage of an Avengers film do they spend just biting and snarking at each other? And I was kind of afraid that they were going to do that with the Peanuts gang. That it was going to be a bunch of people being sarcastic little assholes to each other. But no, they kept sort of they kept to the spirit of the original characters, and that's sort of what I was afraid was going to be lost.
Well, that's because Lucy Hall keeps all the snark and assholeness to herself. You see,
she's got a monopoly on it.
Kat, you've been pretty quiet. Do you have anything to add or ask?
Well, since I didn't see the film, and you guys have just been kind of talking about stuff, I was kind of wondering who the main players were in the movie, and did the reactions between the interactions between the characters feel genuine to the comics? Because I actually loved those comics. My dad collected them throughout the ages, and I ended up reading probably every single collection of them imaginable. So I'm actually, even though I've been quiet and I didn't get a chance to see the film, I'm a huge Peanuts fan. So my main concern would be kind of the same thing as Gonzo's, about modernizing it or millennialing it to...
That's a word now. We've trademarked it. Millennialing.
Millennialing it to fit today's movies and, like, fit tropes and stereotypes and stuff like that. But so my main concern would be how they interact with one another, and does it feel genuine to the comics?
Oh, very much so. very, very much so. Like Brian has finally said it best. We were talking before the show. He actually articulated why I love the movie so much. I was having trouble putting into words, but it's the first comic movie that actually feels like the original comic strip, especially in how its narrative is laid out. Because there, like Brian mentioned, there's no one. It's not a 3-act structure. It's a bunch of little vignettes that are linked together by a common thread that gets tied up in the end. So it almost plays out almost like a mini-series. And you can kind of tell where the breakups are by when Snoopy breaks out the typewriter again. So, but no, this film had a lot of heart, and we'll kind of get to that at sort of the end. So what were some moments that stood out or that you thought were really cool that they included in this film?
Well, a lot of it's because obviously the main character is only Charlie Brown. So we follow Charlie Brown a lot through the whole film itself. But some of the best moments is where he gets to hang out with Linus, or he hangs out with Snoopy or anything like that. Because everyone else is sort of a smaller character, but they still get some moments to shine. I think one of my more favorite vignettes of it was when he had to do the book report. So he gets paired up with a little redhead girl to get a book report done, but unfortunately she's out taking care of her grandmother. So he's like, I know what to do. I will do the book report for both of us, so she doesn't have to worry about it, and then hopefully she'll like me and it'll be great. We'll get the gold star, because he's always after some sort of achievement. But he's like, but I need to find a book. He goes, I need to find Marcy, because Marcy's like the super smart one. She's hanging out with Peppermint Patty because they're supposed to do a book report, but Peppermint Patty's being the sports junkie's not paying attention. So she eventually talks to Peppermint Patty. He's like, yeah, you need to find something. I think it's by this book guy War and Peace. So he has to go to a library. So he's looking for this book, something it was like something toy store.
Leo's Toy Store.
Leo's Toy Store, written by War and Peace. But the joke was the actual book was War and Peace
by Leo Tolstoy.
Yeah, and then she meets up with Marcy there. She's like, have you seen this Leo Toy Store? She's like, Leo Toy Store? Yeah, I was talking to Pepper and Patty. She's like, stop, come with me.
And then there's this neat little moment. It's like, she's going into the grown-up section. Is that legal?
Yeah. But also the best part was that, anyone who's ever been in college at the time he's actually writing the book report, it was first there was war, and then there was peace. And he was like, all right, how many words is that? 17? All right, 900 more to go.
And the next thing it shows is this montage of him reading this book. And for those who don't know, War and Peace is like the textbook definition of a doorstopper. It's 1,200 pages. If you had a hardcover copy of War and Peace and you dropped it from a third-story window, you would kill whoever it hit. I'm not fucking joking with this. So this 10-year-old boy is reading this book, and he puts his heart and soul into writing what Linus describes as the greatest book report ever written. And the little red-haired girl comes up, and she finds out that he's written this book report for the both of them. And at that moment, this model biplane that's been flying around throughout the whole movie just swoops in and completely shreds the book report right there when Charlie Brown is trying to show it to the little red-haired girl, and it just breaks his heart. And that was one of the things that I thought this movie did really well. Is every time something goes wrong for Charlie Brown, we really reach out and feel for him, because everything he tries just winds up blowing up in his face, or he's got to give it up for some reason. Like we mentioned earlier that he goes to do it to a talent show to be a magician. Well, his little sister Sally is the act up before him, and she's trying to do this kind of cowgirl thing, riding around on a broomstick horse. And the kids are kind of starting to laugh at her and make fun of her. And Franklin turns to Charlie Brown and says, "Look, it's either her act or yours. We can't do both." So Charlie Brown decides to give up his act and dresses himself up as a cow to, spice up Sally's act and make it a hit. And through a series of circumstances, he winds up getting hogtied, and his picture of him tied up and trussed up in this cow costume winds up being the front page of the school newspaper the next day. And, we watch all these things blow up in his face and kind of really feel bad for him. And then we get to the end of the film, which I'm going to let Brian talk about. Because he's got a spiel for this. So Brian, why don't you tell us about how this whole thing ties up?
Well, this is maybe it's just me, but I know I've fought people about Charlie Brown and the Peanuts and like what Charlie Brown sort of represents. And this was the first time, I think, maybe not the first time, but the first modern time where I can actually have something else speak for me, is that the thing with Charlie Brown is that, yeah, he never gives up, and he is a really good person, like more so than we could ever be in our lives. When he finally gets sort of the courage, well, I will say this, there's an unfortunate thing. Unfortunately, like in the beginning of the film, he accidentally steals the little redhead girl's like pencil, so he has it throughout the whole movie, but now he's finally going to give it back to her at the end. Not the best moral, a little bit of a plot hole, but anyway, we get to this point where he's finally going to talk to her. She's going to go off to summer camp, but before they did that, they had to choose partners to be pen pals, and the way that that's chosen is that someone would call out a name and someone would say, yes, I will be their pen pal. Charlie Brown's name gets called out. No one says anything except for the little redhead girl. Like, yeah, I'll do it. And he wanted to know, he just wanted to know why. And there's a big sort of chase scene, and he goes through it. He finally starts flying a kite, and everyone like freaks out about it. And he gets up to the girl and goes, so, why me? Why did you choose me?
And it's important to point out that throughout this whole thing, his motivation behind this is he thinks that he would be dragging her down. He thinks that she's doing this because she feels sorry for him, and he doesn't want to drag her down in this. So he is feeling like crap throughout this whole thing.
Yeah, but when he finally gets there and he finally just asks the questions like, so are you doing it? He goes, no, I did it because you're a good person. Like, you sacrificed your time on the talent show to help your sister. That's the sweetest thing I've ever seen. You came out, to the dance floor to try to dance where everyone else, like maybe at your time, wouldn't, because he tried to learn how to dance to impress her. Like, that was like super brave of you. You went out of your way in your shell to do something that's kind of cool. The whole thing with the book report, and there's a test, the SAT test involved. There was a mistake. People thought he was a genius. It turns out he wasn't. He stood up in front of the entire school and said, this was a mistake. This is not my test. I'm sorry for wasting everyone's time, kind of thing. He goes through this, he's sweet. He's honest. He could be a little bit humble. Yeah, things don't go his way, but he still kind of keeps going at it. And that's what she loved about him. Is I absolutely, that's why I kind of like you, and that's why I'm going to do this little pen pal with you. And for whatever reason, I don't know what people don't understand, that I want to sit them down going, this is why I like Charlie Brown. This is why I like Peanuts. Because look at him. Yeah, life gets him down all the time. Everyone seems to be against him a lot. But that doesn't compromise anything he stands for. And he's just a good person. And every day, even though it's going to be hard, because it gets harder, he stands up and goes, all right, let's do this now. Let's try this now. Let's keep moving forward. Eventually, I will kick that football. Not this movie, but eventually I will kick that football.
That gag does show up during the credits, by the way.
They had to do that because we were talking about it. It's weird to have Charlie Brown win. Like he does win, but his wins are rare. But there's always that little bit of moment where he kind of gets brought down to earth. Yeah. And that's that football gag.
But I really liked how they gave him that win, because he's reached his breaking point. He finds out that the little red-haired girl is about to get on the bus to camp, and he's trying he's practically sprinting across the field to try and get there, but things just keep on getting in his way and slowing him down. And he finally just comes to the base of the kite-eating tree, and he's just broken down. He's like, there's no way for me to do this. Just and it's like he pleads to the universe, just help me out this once. And then a kite falls out of the kite-eating tree, wraps him up in a string, and practically drags him to the bus.
Aw, the kite-eating tree did a solid for his buddy.
Well, he has fed him for 12 years.
Well, that's true.
So, and it's for longtime Peanuts fans, I mean, this, I think, was the one thing that, we kind of always wanted to see, but, we were kind of scared to get, and that's to see something just once go Charlie Brown's way. Because, one of the things that's always bothered me about critics of Peanuts is they tend to look at Charlie Brown always getting the short end of the stick in a very kind of nihilistic way. Just like, why does he even bother? Why does he even, why does he even keep trying? I mean, 99 times out of 100, he's just going to get knocked back down again. And it's like, yeah, but you know what? When that one time that he wins comes up, it's going to make all the other 99 times worth it. And that's what he's chasing after. He's chasing after that one time, and he finally got it after 65 years. And I teared up. I'm not gonna lie. I was a crying mess when that happened. So, I know that seems kind of. I probably was a very odd sight in the theater. This 29-year-old grown man in a theater full of children cheering on Charlie Brown. So, yeah.
Yeah, could be worse. I was by myself in a theater that eventually got like 4 people inside of it, so I was kind of the only one laughing at jokes.
So we've only got a few minutes left. So why don't we spend the time talking about some stuff that we didn't get to see in this movie that we thought would have been really cool to see. So Brian, what's something that you would like to have seen them include in this film that didn't make?
I think I know it was a Charlie Brown story and a little bit of a Snoopy side story. I wouldn't mind a little bit of stretching out, maybe a break in between, kind of with Linus and Lucy. Maybe they'll do that later if this is popular enough for a sequel or whatever. Because we even though they all have some of their moments with Charlie Brown, this is definitely just Charlie Brown's story. But you can only get so much in one thing. I really, in terms of like what I got out of it, I think it's not like this is like a good Peanuts movie for me. If they added too much, it might have been too much for them. If they added too little, I would have been disappointed. I feel like this is just right to the point where if we added any more, it would have been overstuffed. Now that's just me. Unless they want to do, Peanuts 2, The Great Pumpkin's Revenge. I don't know.
Oh my god, they should.
Something that I was kind of was that we didn't get to see much more of the interaction between Sally and Linus or Lucy and Schroeder. I felt like those were we got like little hints to it, but we never got any. We never got to see Schroeder playing the piano while Lucy's leaning over it and making gaga eyes at him, which I thought was kind of disappointing. And something else that I thought would have been really cool to see, I would have loved to see World War II, The Cat Next Door, and Snoopy's never-ending war with it. Which he never won. The cat would always whip his ass.
Because even though Snoopy gets more of the wins, he always has his own little quirks. But here's another thing I was disappointed with. Soundtrack. The soundtrack, if anything got moderned, it was the soundtrack. And I'm not the biggest fan of the soundtrack. Because I do miss the sort of jazz ensembles that they had in between a lot of the stuff or in the background. In the dance, they had like the dance montage number and the actual dance music. And it was this. I mean, it's modern pop stuff that the kids are into nowadays. I can't believe I'm actually saying that phrase and not being and actually being serious about it.
That's it. Turn in your young man card. It's time for you to get your old codger card.
I turned in my young man card as soon as my hair started falling out. And the room goes quiet. Brian wins.
Sad.
I always thought he shaved it. Anyway, okay. All right. Yeah, the soundtrack I didn't notice outside of the set a couple of old classics that showed up. Like we got Christmas Time is Here. We got the skating theme from the Charlie Brown Christmas, and of course we got Linus and Lucy that do that showed up.
Well, yeah, I mean that's fine, but when the modern music kind of came in, I was like, ugh,
yeah,
what is this?
But outside of those, I didn't really notice the soundtrack. So, which I know shocks Kat because she's always yelling at me because you're the only person who cares about the soundtrack.
Yeah, generally yes. I think the Peanuts music is sort of worldwide famous for its quaintness. You could go anywhere and you'll be like, oh, that's it's actually like the sound of Christmas at this point because you can't listen to a Christmas station without hearing Peanuts music on it. So it's very iconic.
So, all right, we're kind of got to start winding down here. So we're going to get to the part of the film where we finally give our final thoughts on the film. So, Brian, why don't you go first?
I was glad and I loved the film itself. My fears slipped away after the first opening scene. I was like, this is what I was hoping for. This is exactly what I'm getting, and I just enjoyed myself eating macaroni and cheese with bacon and the symbol of Charlie Brown's shirts. Thank you, Alamo Drafthouse.
Okay, I really love this film. This is a really charming and heartwarming little film. It encapsulates almost everything I love about Peanuts and about Charlie Brown, and I think that if Sparky Schultz were alive today to see it, I think that he would be very proud of it. So, I definitely love this film. So, now comes the part of the show where we give our final ratings on the film. As always, our ratings are from best to worst. See it now, wait for matinee, wait for DVD, wait for cable, don't even bother, and Brian's rating, fuck this movie. So, Brian, let's start with you. What's your final rating on this film?
I say see it now. If you were worried about it being something that like a Smurfs or a Garfield, don't worry. Someone somewhere has learned their lesson. This is not a Smurfs or Garfield. This is something that you should see to really enjoy yourself. Maybe as a palate cleanser to Spectre,
which we're doing next week, or at least these two are. I'm not going to be here. I'm also going to say see it now. This is a really charming film, and it's definitely one to take the little ones to if you have them. If you want to introduce them to Charlie Brown, this is a great way to do it. This is. Like I said, this is, I think, the greatest Peanuts film that could possibly have been made. So, yeah, definitely see it now. And that's about all the time that we have for Nerd to the Third Power this week. The show, we'll see you all next week. I will be back in December for Star Wars, so I'm going to now leave it in the capable hands of the cat.
Woohoo! Power!
Yes.
Sorry.
I've already got a cleanup crew on standby to clean up the mess that she will inevitably make.
I can't guarantee you won't regret handing the show over to me for a few weeks. Make no promises.
So, but the show will be back next week. I myself will see you guys in December for Star Wars. Thank you as always for tuning in. As always, I'm Dr. Gonzo.
I'm the cat.
And I'm Brian, and apparently the cleanup crew is me with a bucket.
Where'd you get the bucket? That wasn't in the budget.
I have my ways. No, shh.
All right. We'll see you next week. Taka, play us out.
BYOB, bring your own bucket.